What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Well, in today's video, we are going over Polygon Matic as we are in an extremely crucial moment that could have some defining characteristics of what happens over the next few weeks and possibly even the next few months. So in today's video, we're going to cover exactly what's going on with Matic's price, what I think is going to happen, and for that reason, what I'm going to do about it. So with that being said, of course, let's go ahead and let's get straight into it. So what we can see from Matic at this point is that we are seeing a pretty strong day today, but for the most part, we have been seeing a pretty hard reset for the last about 2 weeks roughly. Now, I told you guys that this was very possible, and I told you guys that this would actually be very healthy for the longevity of growth for Matic. Of course, what we know is that we had this descending level of resistance for, realistically December all the way throughout March, so about 3 months. And whenever we broke it, I told you guys that we needed to be very, very, very careful, because whenever you have a strong level of resistance of this nature, more often than not, you will come back to retest it and retouch it before eventually continuing back towards the top side. This backtesting of resistance and then establishment of support on top of that resistance is usually very, very important for the growth of a crypto to continue for a long time. Because there are times in which we will see the breakouts of these lines and we go straight up, but realistically that does get followed by pretty hard corrections back towards the downside. So seeing that we are coming back to retest this line now is actually inherently good in my opinion, as long as we are capable of maintaining that hold, as long as we are capable of establishing that support. We can see it on many time frames that it happens all the time, right? We'll see a little bit of a trend line establishment or a resistance level established. We'll see the breakout, we'll come back, we'll back test it, and then we'll use that back test to set the new high. Even on the longer time frames that we're seeing right now, the medium time frames that we saw back here, or even on the shorter time frames as we saw back here, in which we saw this little mini test on a 1 day before eventually continuing towards the top side. It is normal. Matic does it all the time, and this is not something that I would be too afraid of, especially considering the fact that we are seeing something like Bitcoin retesting the bottom side of its key support levels. If we do see the entire market holding these key support levels, I am under the belief that we will see some pretty strong growth within the next couple weeks here. So for that reason, considering the fact that I am still pretty bullish on Matic, and we do have something of what could be considered a bullish engulfing candle if we do close in a similar nature as to where we are now, I am actually pretty bullish on what is happening for Matic. I'm so bullish that I'm actually going to go ahead and prove my bullishness through looking at indicators and tell you guys exactly what I'm going to do because of that. Looking at the indicators, starting on the RSI. Let's just start with the RSI here, then we'll go to the MACD on the daily, then we'll look at the weekly. But looking at the daily RSI here, we can see that we are still operating on a drive of bullish divergence. What I mean by that is whenever we saw this first hard correction towards the downside here, as you can see, we put in this low right back here. Now, whenever we put in that low, we came down to what is considered oversold territory or below 30 on the RSI. Now, ever since then, we have been putting in some equivalent lows within this range of confluence between 124 and a 130 roughly. But as you can see, as we're putting in equivalent lows, at this point, we are still continuously putting in these higher lows. We put in the higher low, and we are still putting in a higher low in comparison to what we saw back here. So considering the fact that we are seeing exaggerated bullish divergence, in which we are seeing this extreme level of confluence, obviously, in which we're putting in equivalent lows, but we are not putting in those equivalent lows here, it tells me that the bears are struggling to catch momentum and they are getting exhausted much sooner, allowing this level of confluence to hold. Now, considering the fact that we are seeing this happening, bullish divergence on the RSI mixed in with what could be considered a bull cross on the way for the MACD, because as you can see, we are printing these light pink candles if we do close today in a very similar area in which we are now. You can see here that generally speaking, once we start to see the pink candles, that is a good indicator that we are looking for some bullishness relatively soon. So considering the fact that we are at a key level of support while backtesting a previous level of resistance with bullishness on our indicators, I would go ahead and say that as long as Bitcoin is capable of maintaining within its own channel and holding support here without correcting towards the downside, I do think that the indicators back up a strong move towards the upside for Matic. So for that reason, I am actually going to go ahead and do a little bit of accumulating today. I'm going to be purchasing some Matic as soon as this video is over, sitting right around $1.42 to $1.40 as my purchase price. But considering the fact that we are still kind of on the fence right now and that Bitcoin still does have the possibility to correct towards the downside, what I'm going to go ahead and do is actually set a stop loss on that purchase sitting right below this around $1.20. The reason being is that this key level of confluence, this red box that stops at $1.24, has held ever since January. And if we're capable of putting in lows below this level, I would go ahead and say that momentum is probably starting to swing back in the favor of the bears and that this correction towards the downside may continue continue for a little bit longer before we are eventually capable of seeing some new highs set. I think that would also run in correlation with Bitcoin starting to set some new lower lows on this corrective, more of a corrective theme as well. And so for all of those reasons, I wouldn't want to just be simply holding on to that position if I could be getting it at some of these lower levels, as I would expect the price to continue to fall. So what I would go ahead and do is set about a 15 to 16% stop loss, meaning I could lose about 15 to 16% of that position. But considering the fact that my overall accumulation here won't be that big, I'm not all too concerned about it. I definitely do think it is worth the risk. Now, I did say that I would be doing a small accumulation, and that is simply true because we are still, below this key level of rejection at $1.72. And I told you guys, until we're capable of breaking this clear level of rejection, as we can see, I'm not going to be doing much accumulating. This is the revolving point in my opinion. We've established support on it, we've established resistance on it, and we've been bouncing off of it multiple times. So until we're able to clear it, I'm not too confident that this thing is going towards that 220, 250, 260 range. And so once we clear it, then I'll do a little bit more accumulating. But until then, I will be doing a little bit of buying around this $1.40 level. So with that being said, that is going to realistically be how I'm seeing it and why I think we are falling. I think this is a healthy back test into a correction. And I think that if we are capable of holding support as well as Bitcoin holding its own support, that we definitely could be in a position to see some growth pretty soon here. So with that said, that's going to be about it for today's video. Very short, very sweet, and very straight to the point. And I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, you can always let me know simply by smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel if you are new. And I will see you all next time. Peace.